Hi everybody, I'm DJ Foster, and welcome to the Matt Mitchell Show here at UCellos. I'm joined by Grand Valley State head football coach Matt Mitchell. Coach, a couple weeks ago, you defeated Tiffin 70-7. A little bit of a pushover, clearly an inferior opponent, but this week you went on the road to Northern Michigan and you beat a good team, 42-7. You put up 42 points, but I think the story of the game, as you can probably attest to, was the defense. 4 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown by Eric Thompson, a blocked field goal, and then you recovered a fumble off a punt. Talk about how dominant the defense was on Saturday.
Yeah, we gave up some yardage, but a little bit of that was by design. We knew that if we were to pressure Carter Kopach and blitz him, that he could either make one guy miss and run for a touchdown, or they could maybe throw the ball down the field, which he was good at. So we were really focused on not trying to give up any big plays, either by him with his feet and or him scrambling around throwing the ball over our head. So we did a good job of keeping the ball in front of us, and then as they started moving and progressing the ball down inside the red zone, we were able to get more pressure and come away with some either, like I said, some turnovers, some field goal attempts. They missed a field goal. We blocked a field goal. Those are huge portion of the game. So it was a good win. This is the same Northern Michigan team that went down and beat Findlay at Findlay, who we lost to Findlay. So
right.
A little bit of it is you look back and we were able to handle them in a pretty good fashion, and I think that just shows you maybe a little bit of the potential this team has. And to be quite honest with you, DJ, how poorly we may have performed, especially against Findlay earlier in the year.
Last week I asked you about Charles Johnson and kind of his emergence as maybe not your go-to receiver, but certainly one of the better receivers in the conference. Kind of overshadowed Javon Augustus a little bit in the first 5-6 weeks, just with the numbers he was putting up. But Javon this weekend was tremendous. 4 catches, all for touchdowns. He's the first Laker to score 4 touchdowns in a game receiving-wise since David Kirkus back all the way back in 2002. Talk about his performance on Saturday.
He played great. I think some of it is, I think understanding that where the ball goes in our 5-step passing game is more dictated upon the looks the defense gives us, okay? We don't go out there. There are some balls, like we down the red zone, we want to throw slants that goes to Javon's, and there's screens that we run to people that we're trying to get the ball to that person in the air. Most of our 5-step stuff is we have route combinations, and how a certain player plays something dictates where the ball goes. So I think, Javon having 4 touchdown catches, 2 of the plays, the one slant that we had, we wanted to get the ball to Javon, and the other one we faked a screen, and we got him back behind their defense. So 2 of the touchdowns were a little bit, I guess you could say, were balls we wanted to get to Javon. The other 2 were as a result of Northern did it one way, and that's where Heath put the ball. The first touchdown, we had a play-action pass. Andrew Lerman was in the flat, and the corner chose to jump him, and Javon was wide open. And then the second one, one of the other touchdowns, they were really tilting their coverage towards Charles Johnson, and it resulted in Javon getting down the middle of the field on a seam. So, I think week to week, are we going to see Javon have 4 touchdown catches every week? I don't know, because some of it might be predicated on what the opposing defense is doing. And so it's not like we're moving away from Charles and moving towards Javon. We've got those guys out in routes, and how a defense chooses to try to rotate coverage or what they do dictates to Heath more where the ball is going than us trying to, quote-unquote, dial somebody up, call somebody's number.
Well, it's a good situation to have, too, having either of those guys that can go off at any time.
Yep.
And the recipient of all those touchdown passes was Heath Parling, who in the last 2 weeks alone has accounted for 11 touchdowns. He threw 5 touchdowns each of the last 2 weeks and ran one in the week before. He's 28 of 38 passing the past couple weeks. Talk about his progression, kind of these past few wins.
Yeah, coming off the Findlay 3-interception deal, I know that he didn't play as well as he wants to play and or we believe he could play. So there was 1 of 2 ways for us to go on our staff. We could have tried to, quote-unquote, protect Heath, try to run the ball, easy throws, or we knew what we had. We've been with the kid, now for 24 months. We know he could play quarterback.
Right.
We kept swinging. We just kept swinging. We kept running what we did, and just kept coaching him to make better decisions. And to his credit, he has made some great decisions the last couple weeks. And again, like I said last week, some of those plays against Tiffin were wide open. There were some much tighter windows. If you watch the replay of the touchdowns, there's some tight windows that he's putting some very well guided balls into some tight windows and really putting the receivers in a position to make some plays. So I just hope that he continues to progress. He has not thrown a pick, obviously, in the last 2 games, and keeps progressing on this line. And if we can keep up the ratio, he's getting a touchdown pass and interceptions, we're going to continue to be dangerous at that position.
Now, behind Heath in the backfield, he was without Hersey Jackson last week with an injury, but Norman Shuford played well as always, 123 total yards for him. But you had guys like Michael Rattay, who had 93 total yards, and Billy Seiler had 44 yards rushing. So I guess first question is, how's Hersey doing? And secondly, talk about guys like Billy and Michael who stepped in and definitely carried the load.
Hershey was really close to playing. We kind of had an evaluation on Thursday and just wasn't quite there yet with his injury. And so we made the decision to kind of take it easy on this week and, have him back moving forward. And I think one of the things that allows you to make those decisions and you feel comfortable with the decision is the depth that you have behind him. Mike Rattay is a really good tailback, and Hershey, had performed a little bit better than him, and Hershey was clearly our number 2, and you got Norman as a 1-2 punch, but having the availability of Mike Rattay and Billy Seiler's doing a lot of good things for us, I think that just speaks to how we've recruited, in the past, quite honestly, and the depth we have at the position that you could basically lose Jake Aberg for the season on an injury and you lose Hershey Jackson for 1 week on an injury. I don't think there's a whole lot of teams that could absorb the loss of 2 of their top tailbacks and still keep clicking, and I think that's a credit to the kids in our program understanding it's the next man in philosophy. The next guy's got to step up and play. Mike Rattay did a great job of that.
No, on the other side of the ball this week, you brought back Zach Breen. He had a team-high 9 tackles. He blocked. He had a hand on the blocked field goal. What did you think of his performance?
For having not played football in 11 months, I thought he did a really good job. Now, you talk to Zach, I'm sure there's some things he's got to work on, but that's who he is. He's a very competitive kid, and he wants to get better. So, I think it's hard. I said in the press conference here, it's hard to replicate game reps, run around hitting people.
Right.
We don't go live scrimmage every day of the week, so he'll continue to get better. He gets back in the flow of things, and his leadership role has helped us too on the defensive side of the ball. So I was encouraged that getting him back led to some positive production for him and our defense, and obviously the score being the way it was another positive benefit of having him out there.
With all those good things we've talked about already, your head coach, I'm sure there's things that you feel you can work on. What do you still need kind of to improve on?
I think there's some times, and again, our offensive line has played very well. There's a couple times Heath got hit, and we just got to have we have to have the high sense of urgency. Our backs are against the cliff. We cannot allow our quarterback to get touched. That has to be one of the primary deal. There's a couple times we had some short yardage runs. There's been some previous games where we've had 1 yard to go and we haven't gotten that yard. And so digging deep and getting that yard up front, whether it's the backs, hitting at the right spot, the O-line, the tight ends, everybody working in conjunction together, need to continue to work on that. Defensively, still our coverage, both in zone and probably man. We gave up a couple balls in man on Saturday. We've made progress on that, but we need to keep making progress in terms of our, in the back end of our defense. Just pass coverage type stuff that we need to get cleaned up.
You go to Lake Erie this weekend. Now, their record may be a little their record doesn't speak for themselves. They're 1-5 overall. They're 0-5 in the GLIAC, but they bring in a quarterback, Sean Bedavelski, I believe is the way he said it. He's 9th in total offense. But they played Saginaw well. They played Hillsdale well. They were within a touchdown, I think, at halftime against Wayne State this past weekend. So I think their record doesn't speak for how good they actually are. Talk a little bit about the Storm.
Yeah, I agree completely, and it's kind of similar to last year. They'd actually lost all their games heading to last year. They won their opener, but have lost 5 straight. They were 0-6 coming out last year. They gave us all they could handle in the first half.
Right.
Bedavelski's he's a very good quarterback. He's the comparisons him and Carter Kopach aren't quite the same. He runs more option stuff, whereas Carter Kopach is a little bit more design runs. He's run a lot of option. He wheels and deals the football. He kind of reminds me of like a Steve Nash out there. Not super maybe flashy, you would think athletically. He's not very big. He's a little bit shorter guy, but puts his foot in the ground. He'll fake a pitch and duck it up underneath, and just is very crafty with the football.
Right.
And he's if you don't have to defend him, he's probably pretty fun to watch. He's been miserable to watch here the past 24 hours,
sure.
But he makes our team go. He's a senior. He's obviously a very competitive kid. So we have our hands full. They went through us like a knife through hot butter in the first half last year with all basically the same kids back. And then if you look at the first half of Wayne State, he was going up and down the field on Wayne State. They've struggled with red zone scoring, same thing, and then also some turnovers at times have hurt them putting the ball on the ground. That happens sometimes with option-based offenses. So it's going to be a very stiff test for our defense. Lake Erie's defense has really struggled. They have a lot of new faces, so we have to have an approach that our offense has got to take advantage of every one of the snaps, because if we're not doing a great job on defense, we've got to make sure we take advantage of our possessions and get scores. And like I said before, I think we can't afford to turn the ball over on offense. We can't afford to put our defense out there in short fields. And so this game's going to come down to field position, giving us our defense some room to work, and then also our offense, not turning the ball over and making sure that they finish drives.
Grand Valley State heads to Paynesville, Ohio this Saturday, October 15th for a 7 o'clock game against the Lake Erie College Storm. Mitch, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
I'm DJ Foster. Thank you for watching The Matt Mitchell Show here on the Grand Valley Sports Network.